a huge request from our clients of saying, let me give you a couple of use cases here. One would be, we are working with a district that has various skills of teachers, which we all know we almost always have that, right? From beginner to barely using email to our more advanced that dive in head first, can pick it up really quickly. So how can we provide professional development? How can we help progress skills? Or how can we just turn off things that don't make sense for our business case? That is the gist really of what this feature said and how it came about. So I'm going to dive in here. And I don't know if we're going to take the whole hour or not, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to turn these on and off, where to turn them on and off, and then we're going to go through each one of these, make sure that I answer any questions that you have. So there's two ways to turn on these feature sets, and they're both in the admin dashboard. This is an admin webinar, so if you don't have admin rights, you may need to get with somebody that does. I'm looking at the list here. I think everybody's names I recognize have admin rights, so I think we're okay there. And I'm going to jump in and show you the two places to turn these on. One of the really neat things that I know I really fought for was having the ability to turn off a feature set completely at a domain-wide level, but then also be able to turn those on for individual users. So depending on a different role, a coach, a mentor, or just one of those outstanding teachers that are progressing faster than others, I want to be able to turn on feature sets for individual users if needed. And we also have the ability to do that. So that is pretty exciting. As we go through, I'm just going to talk about these, and then I'm going to jump into the platform and actually show you where they're at and how to do this. So I'm going to jump in here to the platform. I'm going to go to my administrator panel here because that's where all the magic happens. All right, once we're in the administrator panel, and I'm going to mention that I am in the brand new UI. So if you have not been using the new UI, the way to access that is to just put the word next in the URL. So it could be, I'll just use an example, ABC. Let's say it used to be abc.agilexbuzz.com. You just put next in the middle there, abc.next.agilexbuzz.com. So whatever your prefix was, that stays, adding next in the middle there. So if you didn't know that, I want to make sure that I put that plug in there so you could follow along if you needed to. All right, so once we're in the administrator panel, at the top here we have tabs. You'll notice these tabs that you're probably familiar with. It was very tab-ish in Brain Honey and also tab-ish in Buzz. We kept that same type of tab format here within the new interface, but we've added a few new things. So if you go all the way far to the right, you're going to see a new tab called Features, and that's where that feature set lives. Now, if you are practicing as I go through this, I would suggest maybe you hold off a little bit so you can just kind of hear what I'm saying and then make notes and then practice a little bit if I'm going through something that you already are familiar with. But I want to make sure you see the two places that you can turn these on and off. So again, these are your feature sets. I think we have about 20 plus. So for now, I'm going to talk about these main ones that we have that are currently in the system. Before we do that, I want to again show you the two places to turn those on and off. If I turn off Enable Calendar Tool for teachers, which means they will not be able to use the calendar tool. Again, I'm not going to get specific into this right now, just showing you what it means to turn these on and off. It's a simple slide button, very, very easy. So now this is turned off for everybody. So I'm going to go to, let's pretend we now have a specific user that, let's say it's a coach, and the coach wants to be able to use dates for professional development, but they're not necessarily a K-12 teacher, and you want to make sure you keep that separate. So if I click over on the left-hand side to our menu, I'm going to go to any user, and I'm just going to click on any user here. Click on the three buttons on the right-hand side, and what you'll see once you click on that is Edit Feature Settings. Now, the neat thing about this is any that you have turned off, and it's only going to show the ones that you have turned off, it'll say, well, which ones do you want to turn back on for this particular user? So those are the two ways to turn those on and off. Again, I suggest doing this globally for everybody and then going in for the users and turning those on and off based on the roles or comfort level of the users. All right, so I'm now going to jump back to the feature set, and we're going to go through each of these, and feel free to ask questions. Again, I think you're going to find these really intuitive. I really want to make sure you know where they're at and the different features that you can turn on and off. So if you're looking at the document that I gave you as a handout, we're going to just start at the main menu here and go through these. make sure that you understand where they're at and what they're talking about. So main menu items, we're going to jump into any of those that are in the course settings. There's a lot of feature sets that can be turned off in course settings. Also, there's several feature sets in the editor. And then we also have some in the gradebook. So we'll get through these. I think we'll go through it pretty fast because I think you guys are pretty familiar with each of these features. It's just a matter of knowing where they're at once you turn them on or off. So the first one that we mentioned is the calendar tool. So let me show you what that means when you turn that off for a teacher. So let me jump back here. All right, so I am going to go in. I'm going to be in as a teacher over here, and then once I turn it off, I'll show you what that looks like from both perspectives. Oh, I turned it off, didn't I? Sorry about that. Let me get back in that feature set. Yep. Okay, so I turned it off. So that's the reason I was going to turn it on and then turn it back off, but that's fine. So I have it turned on. What you saw is what it would look like when it was turned off. So I'm not going to see that calendar tool here. When I go back in and I turn that on, it's very, very simple, and this is how all of those are going to work. You're going to have to refresh your screen, and I'm going to be able to see the calendar feature. Sometimes it takes a couple of refresh to see it, so I'll refresh a couple of times. When I've been practicing for this, it can, sometimes take up to 10 seconds, but there you go. There's that calendar icon that was available and is no longer available. This is really great for any business case that isn't using due dates. It just gets it out of there. We don't use it. We don't need it. Or if you are progressing teachers through professional development, you can slowly progress them to using due dates or where to find those there within the calendar feature. Next one then is and I'm going to stick with, these are a little bit jumbled here, so I'm going to stick with my list because I feel like my list just goes down the different tools in a little more, in a little better workflow. So the next one is Clipboard. Same idea with the Clipboard. It's accessed from that main menu. So if I turn off the Clipboard here as a teacher, let me go back and remind you where that lives. The Clipboard is there. Basically what we're going to be turning off is communication, calendar, Clipboard, or community. Those are the four that can be turned off, and that's what we're talking about here. So again, the Clipboard is the area where you can go, and I'm not going to get into these features specifically right now because this is about where they live and how to turn them off. But again, the Clipboard is where you can go in and you can add activities, badges, tasks, and messages to any participant. Again, we definitely have some clients that aren't ready for the Clipboard. We just want them to work on maybe developing curriculum, not necessarily delivering curriculum yet, or maybe we just want them to use the regular gradebook, not quite ready for the Clipboard. This is a great way to progress them to the Clipboard. Actually jump to community. So some of you may or may not have been using community because it's still an experimental feature, but if you have been using community, that is definitely one that can be turned off. It's probably turned off unless you've had it and chose to use it. But community is a beta feature that we've been using for professional learning communities. If you're interested in that, you can talk to your sales manager. I'll just click on it so you can get a quick glimpse, but essentially you can bookmark people, content, create groups for PLCs, some really good things happening there. I'm going to go ahead and go back home. So again, this may not even show up for you if you're not already chosen to use that or have chosen to use the community. If it is turned on and you want to turn it only on for certain users, you could certainly do that. Okay, so the next ones are in the communication and also the Clipboard tools. So if you don't want teachers sending email to students, which sometimes we have some business cases where communication has to be done through email or an SIS or something of that sort, you could certainly turn those off. This communication tool will not allow them to send the email. So this icon right here will disappear and they will not be able to send those through this icon. So two places you can do this. One is the communication, and then we also have within the Clipboard, if you do choose to leave that on, you could email participants, and that would also be taken away as well. The same idea with the communication for posting announcements. If you turn off the ability to post announcements within the communication tool, that will be turned off as well. So if I go in here to the communication tool and you have your announcements, this icon will also go away if you choose to turn that off. All right, so now we're going to jump, if you don't have any questions about that, we're going to kind of jump into course settings. There's actually quite a few, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11 different features that are all turned off within the course settings. So I want to make sure you guys know which ones those are. Pretty much any of those settings in the course settings area can be turned off, but let's just talk about that for a second. And again, this will go pretty fast because it's all in one area, and I'll just make sure I watch for questions here. But essentially, if you go into any course, I'll just go into my example marine biology course here, and I'm going to go into my editor and my course settings. Okay, so again, if you go into editor and course settings, that's where that lives. Okay, so each of these modules that you see here could essentially be turned off. And I believe that every single one of these could be turned off. I think we just added the badges one. Let me double check on that. That one was, I think, a recent one, ability to turn off. Let me just double check here. Nope. Okay, maybe not. I think the badges one is one that we haven't made a module for yet. But I'll double check on that because I know that was potentially part of the plan as well. But each one of those, so I know the ones I know you can turn off or just get rid of is the multi-outcome scoring. So if you're not using a course with multi-outcome scoring, then this module won't even be here. If you don't know what multi-outcome scoring is or using competencies and you want to learn more, ask your sales rep or request a webinar for that. But if you do know what that is and you want to turn that off, that's where you do that. We have grading categories. So if you use categories or you don't use categories, for example, discussions, quizzes, or grouping activities into categories that you can filter for within the gradebook, then I would suggest turning that off. Also with grading periods. So we have some clients that use semesters or trimesters or quarters. If you don't use those or it's not interest to you, then get rid of that module. Teachers don't even need to see it. The cleaner and more crisp it is, the less overwhelming it is for them. Same with objective mastery. If you're not aligning your content to objectives, especially from the beginning, you can turn that off. And then as you progress them to aligning content to objectives, maybe through professional development, you can slowly turn on these feature sets. Again, I could turn on objective mastery as they get ready for that. So these modules aren't overwhelming from the beginning. Grade scale. So if you already have a set grade scale and you don't want them messing with it or even giving them an option to change it, you can turn off grade scale so they don't even see it. Same with enrollment completion. If your business case is they will get enrollment complete either manually or automatically when all gradable items are complete, you have that set at an organization level, it's best just to turn those off, then there's no way they can change those. And then you could also, again, turn that on for a variety of users or a handful of users that might have those permissions, or maybe even course developers that can make those settings what they need to be before they push them out to teachers. Excuse me. The other one is blackout dates. So if you don't use blackout dates, for example, we have clients that use Christmas break, Thanksgiving break, spring break, and they're using a continuous enrollment type of course where students will continually come in. Once they start, they then have an end date and they can take their content throughout the start and the end date, but put in blackout dates. So you can turn that off so you don't even have to see that. The last one is publisher options. So this is really good. That if you have teachers that are just teaching or managing content, teachers that are just managing students, and you don't want them worrying about content, then I would turn this off. Usually these publisher options are more for administrators or curriculum directors or curriculum developers that need to have these options available. For example, you may prevent any content edits in any derivative copy. So if somebody's making a bunch of copies and you don't want them making changes, they get what they get and they don't throw a fit, then this would be an option to turn that on, right? But you might only have certain users that you want to have permissions to do that. Okay, so that's in our document that we have. So any of those that say course settings, that's where those are. That's what they refer to. If you don't know what each of those settings do, one of the things we did is each one of these is a link that you could go to that reminds you of how to do those settings. It is part of the live link. So I know in this PDF, these links aren't going to work. But if you do click on the help item, straight from the help desk, those links will be live and you can follow those just as reminders of what those features do that you may or may not be interested in using. All right, so if I don't have any more questions on course settings, I'm going to jump to self-assessments. So if you remember a self-assessment, let me go to a student example here. If I'm in a course for a particular student and I have self-assessment turned on, at any point I can click on this heart in the upper right-hand corner, and I can use my sliding scale of how I'm feeling for understanding, interest, or effort. And then I'm going to update that, and it's going to show for me as a teacher in the people page. And actually, I probably should have done this in the course that I have. Let me do this in my course that I have as an example for my teacher. All right. So again, there's my understanding, interest, and effort. It is by course only, not by activity. And if I'm in my people dashboard, that's where, and again, I'm just going to remind you where this would be. If I'm in my teacher dashboard, we have understanding, interest, and effort. And so as they're marking those, that's where it would display within that people dashboard. Just help you give you a little reminder of where those live. If that's something you don't want, we have some clients say, I don't care about that. I don't want to know. We're just focused on this particular type of deployment. Then that's great. You can certainly turn those off. All right, so I'm going to jump down here to groups. So groups are within the people. I should have added people in here. Sorry, I'll add that again. So in the people dashboard and also in the editor, we can create groups, and we also can create group specific settings. So I want to talk about that a little bit. I see the use case for this often with teachers that just aren't ready to use groups. Again, we want to turn off as much as possible and ease them into these feature sets so they're comfortable adding content. They're like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to start managing my students. What's a great way to do that? Okay, now that you're ready, let's talk about how you can group students, and then you can turn activities on and off based on those groups. So let's talk about that for a little bit on how to turn those on and off. I want to just give you an example on the new UI where those live. Again, not diving too far in for each of these features. All right, so just in the admin area, again, that's enable groups, enable group specifics. What that looks like, again, from the teacher end is if I'm here in my people dashboard, I'm going to go back from the beginning just because I know this is a new UI and we're still getting used to it. I'm going to go into any one of my courses. I'm going to click on it. I could either click on the course. I could click on the people right from this bottom icon here. Okay, we're going to have more webinars. So you guys are going to get really comfortable with this. Or on the left-hand side, I can go and I can click on people and see my people page from for any course. But if I want to create groups for any specific course, I'm going to click on the course itself. And I'm going the long way here rather than using the icon. And then I'm going to go into the people. It does let me know which course I'm in. I'm going to go to the people page. And if you have the groups turned off, this manage groups will not be available. So if I click on this, again, this is where you create your groups. You can align content to groups. But if you turn that off, you're not going to be able to go in and manage those. So vice versa, if I go into the editor, these group settings, this tab will be hidden if you turn off those group settings. Basically what that means is I want to turn content on and off for various groups, but my teachers aren't ready for that. I'm going to get rid of this tab or hide this tab for now, and I'll turn that back on when they're ready. Okay. All right. One thing to mention that I thought was pretty cool in the new interface was the filter by group. So this was pretty neat where I could actually go in this filter by group. This is actually just a little tidbit because I was pretty excited about this feature. This icon would also be hidden, but you may not know about it yet if you haven't been playing in the new UI. But I can filter by any group. So let's say I just want to see my Marine Bio 2 content. So if you're familiar with groups, you can go and turn on and off content by group. So I just want to see what my Marine Biology 2 group can see. All right, so if I go into let's go into content here. So if I want to turn on and off marine invertebrates, okay, I'm going to choose which groups and settings that I want to change, right? So I can call this biome. I'm going to say for biome 1, right? So only my biome 1 people are going to see that. And then I'm going to go to biome 2. Yes, I want to save my, continue. Yes, I want to save my edits. I might not have clicked save. Save. Okay. Now, as I go back and if I'm filtering through, I'll be able to see those different changes in my home from the different activities. But essentially, if I go up here to this filter, I would be able to look on Bio 1, and if the content is different or hidden, I'll be able to see that content for those various groups. We're going to have webinars on each one of these feature sets and the new interface as we go through, again, just showing you where some of these changes and things will be hidden. This icon won't be here if you do turn off groups. Okay, so groups, the side panel. So the side panels will also turn off. So often we are trying to help teachers go through and develop content, but we want it to keep it really simple and really clean. So again, I could turn off group settings, I could turn off scheduling, I can turn off a few of these, which we'll get to. I can turn off projects. The only thing that they'll see is the ability to add content. So this is really, again, really great for professional development. All you're teaching them to do is add content, start building your course within here. Then once you're ready, we can add objectives. Again, you could turn objectives off where you won't even see this, and it'll keep it really simple. So these two side panels, again, you normally have 3 columns, which we're used to. Those will be hidden. They'll only see this area here, which really forces them to focus on that, not worry about anything else. Again, slowly start adding in some of these tabs like projects, weights, scheduling, and group settings as you move them through the system. Okay, good. And I just mentioned projects and scheduling. So again, I can turn off those 2 tabs within the editor, so teachers won't even see those. And again, group settings can be turned off. So the only thing that they would be able to see is syllabus, activity list, and then weights. If you use those, you also could choose to turn those off as well. Again, keeping it really simple. Okay, so this one that I want to talk about, because this one's a little bit hidden within the activity, so I'll make sure you saw or know where this is. Enable advanced activity settings. So if I'm in here as a teacher and I want to add an assignment, so I'm just going to open up this assignment here. When I open up this assignment, you'll see as you start to get comfortable with the new interface, you'll see that we've kept it simple and the workflow moves left to right. So this is where the activity instructions are. But if I go to settings, in here we have advanced gradebook options and advanced activity options. If you don't want them to have access to these various items, which a lot of times we have some use cases where we don't want them messing with this stuff, so let's just get it out of their view. You can get rid of these 2 modules here. Again, you can look at those and see if that makes sense for you to hide those from teachers. More often than not, these are usually just for the people that are developing the curriculum. They're setting how the gradebook options are going to go, setting how the activity options are. Once you give it to a teacher, the teacher just teaches it. They don't need to worry about those things, so you might as well get rid of them. Same thing with the advanced visibility settings. So if I'm in here as a teacher, you could turn off some of the visibility and access settings that we have available. All right, so we just have a couple more here, and these are within the gradebook. So the ability to see the unit summary screen and the final grades. So if I jump back here to the teacher, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. I don't want to save any of these settings. I'm going to go ahead and go into my gradebook. Again, to access that, now you open up that panel. I can go to my gradebook. Let me go to a different course because most of us are not using multi-outcome scoring. Okay, so this unit summary, sometimes we have use cases or clients where they don't really care to see how they're progressing. It's just a matter of them getting in, moving at their own level, and this view isn't as important. So this can be turned off as well. And then the last one was final grades. So if the teacher is not responsible for submitting final grades, it's done a different way, then that would be turned off as well. So up here, actually I moved it right there. So this go to final grades would not be available. This would be hidden. All right, so I think with this document, it should really help you with where these live, where they're located. Just remember, if you click on turning those off, they just won't be visible. And again, the approach or the implementation would be really starting to think about how you progress teachers or content developers or anybody in the system on how to start using it and how you want to help them through the system without having everything turned on and maybe seeming a little overwhelming, because as we all know, learning management systems can sometimes be overwhelming at first.